Pushing homes weren't easy, like the movie said it was. I don't remember dance hall girls or hotel rooms with rugs. The work's hot, tired and nasty. Rode your pony's head too low. And all them nights we couldn't sleep, 'cause it was too damn cold. We'd sing Strawberry Road to Little Joe. Like the time we hit the river and the rain begun to fall. The water rising so damn fast, we thought it drowned us all. We lost a lot of steers that day, 4 or 5 good mounts. When all the boys rode into camp, really that's what counts. And we'd sing, we'll be tied in Amazing Grace.
In the fall of 1980 or 81, Jim and I was invited to go on a deer hunting trip with the Steve Willis family. And we went down there to Cannonville and Tropic, and not too far from Bryce Canyon, to this hunt. And when we got there to their hunting camp, their dad Joe had a Dutch oven full of potatoes there and served us up supper there. And it was quite late. It was probably close to 10 o'clock that night. And while I was eating those potatoes and getting acquainted with everyone, it started to snow. And so we went to bed that night with it snowing. And of course, when we got up the next morning, there was about an inch of snow on the ground. And so we was going to have breakfast there in the tent. And so we all got in there and started fixing breakfast and getting things ready. And I was getting in there, getting ready to help. And Steve Willis said that I was their guest, and that we could just kind of sit back and watch them, and they would serve us. And so I went over and propped myself up on a set of sleeping bags, and Jim took up his position right behind the grill because he was bound and determined to get the first piece of bacon that came off that grill. Steve Willis was busy mixing up pancake batter, and Kmar Willis was busy frying up the bacon and that kind of thing. And Quinn, he was busy getting the grill ready there and getting it ready for his dad to dump out a big portion of those Dutch oven potatoes that was left over from the night before. And all of that family there seemed to work extremely well together. And as I was laying there on the sleeping bags, I was watching them interact with each other. And I seemed to take quite notice to what was going on. And the boys were teasing each other about one thing or another, and they was laughing and giggling and telling stories, and then they'd ask about each other's families and whatnot. And as I watched them, I could tell that they genuinely loved each other. And I couldn't help but think, I've seen this before. And a thought came to me, is this tradition that has brought these young men together?
For the night they broke behind us, took us by surprise. I whistled out to Bonner, I saw the terror in his eyes. He rode his horse for all he'd ride. I know he done his best. He crossed over Jordan, riding Dunny to his death. And we sang, bringing in the sheaves and the rugged cross.
50 years ago, I remember watching Grandma and Grandpa busy themselves at getting ready for breakfasts or lunches, and at that time, we would be here at the ranch, and sometimes it'd be on the 4th, or other occasions that we'd be all together as a family here. But primarily we began together here on the 4th. And I remember watching them as a young boy, how Aunt Ruth and Aunt Barbara was busy helping Grandma do this and that with getting things ready for breakfast. And I watched Grandpa cooking and frying meat, and Uncle Clinton being involved there, helping him cook. And a lot of us was just sitting around, and we was enjoying each other's company. And there'd be laughing and giggling, and there was joking and telling stories and asking about each other's family. And now, 50 years later, I'm still watching the same play, only it's been handed down 3 more generations in the process. And it seems as though we each still have our jobs, and we each still interact with each other. And, I've been watching, all of us interact with each other, and I can truthfully say we truly love each other as we're in around each other. And I can't help but think, is this simply tradition that brings us together, or is it much deeper than that?
Now when you meet a cowboy, he's not ragged by his choice. Never meant to bow them legs or put that gravel in his voice. Chasing what he really loves, it burns down in his soul. Wishing to hell that he'd been born 100 years ago, singing Strawberry Roan. And little Joe still singing Strawberry Roan. And little Joe.
Dad passed away in the spring of 1999, and it wasn't too long after that it was decided that I'd go ahead and buy his pickup. And I can remember the first time I went out there to the garage that I was going to take it to work, and I climbed inside and sat in the seat there and just sat there and feeling his spirit and looking around me there to see exactly how he left his truck behind the last time that he was in it. And there was various small possessions and different things that he had that was in and around the truck. But one of the things that I did notice was that there was 3 or 4 cassette tapes. And they were tapes of music that he liked. And it wasn't long I noticed that all of the tapes were homemade tapes. They were tapes that he had recorded himself of the music that he liked. That there was no commercial album tapes of song artists that he liked, but they were individual songs that he thought that he liked the best, and he had them taped. And while I was there listening to one of those tapes, that's when I learned from John Wayne why we keep coming to the 4th of July. And now I'll let John Wayne explain to all of you why it is that we keep coming to the ranch on the 4th of July.
On a trail drive from Texas, down by the Rio Grande, we drove past the Medina, dry and bitter land, where before the Longhorn streamed a long grass range once was there. Now we heard them in silence to the feeling of despair. The day was hot, and it was dry, and the speed bars away, The gay and the cactus tried to drain our lives away. We came up to a ranch house, dying in the desert sun. Looked the old Fred over. Couldn't see anyone. Then from the ranch house, a man stepped up. He was old beyond his years. Viejo Caballero. Eyes filled up with tears. I have nothing for you, senors, he said. My hacienda's empty now. There was a time. He shook his head, gave a gentle bow. I asked him why he'd stayed on in a place where hope was dead. He looked up at me and his face grew soft. This is what he said. Mis raíces están aquí. My roots are buried here. Now, I've punched cattle from the Rio Grande to the cold Montana plains. I've pushed them through New Mexico, through Arizona range. I've seen ranchers hanging on when it's been 45 below. And the thought always crossed my mind as to why they just don't go to a place where life is easier, where nature's not so hard. And then the past comes floating back, and I'm in that Viejo's yard. I think of him and his quiet rides with the things that he has done, and I know that if men battle back in the snow or the broiling sun, they'll live their responsibilities to the land that they love best. America will proudly stand, and in her vigil will not rest, for no matter what may lie ahead, the answer is loud and clear. Mis raíces están aquí. My roots are buried here.
Now, this year on the 4th, 2008, let us reconnect with our roots. May we be receptive to the Spirit and allow it to bring back to our memories of our walks with Grandma, to walk on her mountain, to pick wildflowers with her, now to place a rock on the monument in her memory. What of our walks to the garden to help her, and to pick fresh vegetables and later eat them when having dinner with them? I think I can still taste them in my memory. The real trick was to be up early enough so you was there when Grandpa caught his horse, and maybe he would catch one for you and take you with him to check the water on Mill Creek. How do I explain to my children and grandchildren what it felt like to be on a cow drive with him and my uncles and father, and also a few of my cousins? I can remember how the chariot rides with all of us would bond us together. Even today, 50 years later and 4 generations, our children and grandchildren are feeling the same bond because we taught them what Grandma and Grandpa taught us. This year we are going to have an opportunity to connect with our Scottish roots and our first missionary to Scotland, John Davidson Burt. This will be our best year yet. As we gather this year on the 4th, Ginger and I would like to say, welcome home.
Now I'm chasing old memories, old trails that grow dim, through cedars and pinyons below the Kinney Rim. It was just you and me and them Mustangs there in the blue shadow below the old Kinney Rim. Ah,